Hello, my friends. Straight away to the awesome news coming from the front lines because Ukraine was capable to liberate 3 of the settlements in this Pokrovsk-Dobropilya direction. So it was yesterday and it is today. Yeah, it was understandable well before that Kucherev Yar is completely cleared, but now Deep State confirms that information. And also Ukraine moves in Suvorove and Suhetske. Suhetske was liberated fully and Suvorove partially. Also, Ukraine expanded the gray zone towards Fedorivka. The counterattack is in progress. Soon Ukraine will reach this road that connects 2 of those settlements of Boykivka and Ruzzian. By the way, Ukraine also tried to counter-strike those. Well, that's the huge update, I would say, especially for Rodinske settlement because Russians entered it before, like maybe a couple of months ago, and they need to take it under control to try to encircle the Mirnograd and Pokrovsk settlements, but now they've been pushed away from it. This is fantastic, guys. It gives Ukraine more time to defend Pokrovsk and Mirnograd to cause Russians absolutely crazy losses. Plus, you see that Ukraine is pushing Russia from Novoshakhova, so I think it's just a matter of time, maybe a few days, since Russia would be forced to evacuate its forces somehow or surrender them close to Shakhova. Russians actually try to offend, not knowing where to go. Probably they cannot go back to Mayak or something. So just a couple of days ago, with the infantry amount they have here, not many, they tried to go to Shakhova. It was a useless operation. They were stopped by Ukraine. So of course the situation for Ukraine in Dobropilya direction is great. And let's check out some of the proofs of the Ukrainian territorial gains here. Well, for that, we need to check the map from the Myko 73. It's not the Ukrainian army surrendering here. No, it is the Russian army. The 82nd Ukrainian Assault Brigade put flags in Suhetske. Those are the flags. Those are our guys with those Ukrainian flags. Absolutely fantastic information. In this video, they also show some of the Russian soldiers who were restrained and who surrendered to Ukrainian army. Great. I just skip it for YouTube because they are lying, so I don't know how YouTube may perceive this information, but I'll share it, of course, on my Telegram. So geolocation is confirmed, so Suhetske is being liberated. Plus the next village, it is called Zatishok, was also liberated, but the Deep State military map tells that it's Suvorove. Well, it has different names, I guess. I think that Zatishok is the legit name which Ukraine gave to the settlement by the time of independence. So the current situation for Russians in this region is actually terrible, but there is some specific direction where Russians actually tried to gain the ground again towards Volodymyrovka, and you can see they have huge losses on the way. Yeah, they also tried to get to the place from Popiv Yar. Well, here they had some of the territorial gains as well as here, but let's see the outcome of this attack for Russia. The 33rd Assault Brigade of Ukrainian Army conducted the defense operation. Well, Russia sent some of the armored vehicles here, as you might see, and there are some of the kabooms on the way for Russians. Yeah, Ukraine even used HIMARS systems for defense. It's been a while since I saw the HIMARS in operation, but now Ukraine is using the tool all around the front line, so at first the vehicles are being disabled by FPV drones and later on finished by the drone drops. You can see some of the mortar mines are flying down. Then FPV drones once again, some of the Russian vehicles. But what is interesting about this attack, that Russians went to the local pond, or you may call it swamp, so the bridge was destroyed. It probably was destroyed even before the attack happened. They tried to bypass it and they ditched down at least 3 of their vehicles in the same water obstacle. Wow. And of course, Ukraine finished everything of that. I just wonder about the Russian infantry, whether they were able to evacuate from those vehicles or not. Well, maybe not, because the doors of the Russian BMPs or MTLBs, they're located at the back, they're below the water level. So how they could get out, especially then there's some of the mud and they put those hunger protections on their vehicles. So of course, it makes it difficult to leave the vehicles in this kind of the case. So this disastrous Russian attack confirmed to be repelled by Ukrainian defenders. It looks like Russia lost many of the APCs in this region, at least 4 of them, maybe even more. Well, I also have the information about this attack attempt of the Russian army, where they advanced also with infantry vehicles and one of the tanks. It looks like it's not the same attack which Russians did, because there was the tank, but this one was also stopped. Allegedly, it was happening also in Pokrovsk-Dobropilya direction. This is BMP-1, I think. You see on top it has a very thin armor. Yeah, yesterday it was conducted. Russians did the 5th large mechanized assault near Pokrovsk, northern part. Ukrainian 93rd, 33rd, and 95th and other brigades destroyed at least 16 of the infantry fighting vehicles. Well, on the picture I see 4, maybe it's the part of the previous attack that was repelled, maybe it's the second mid-wave. For now, I don't have that information, and Russians used the adverse or bad weather conditions like fog to advance in the morning, but they were all stopped. So as for the forces which Russia uses on the front lines, we're back in 2023, when Russians were sending tons and tons of those vehicles in useless mid-wave attacks. So why useless? Because you see why, yeah? They all were stopped and are stopped. The only tactics that works for Russia, as I see it, is to attack with the small infantry groups. With mechanized attacks, they just give more profit to Ukraine, and it is good. Do you think that Russians do not understand that? They understand. They scream in their groups. I mean, their military bloggers and some of the military officers, even of the Russian army, they're saying that this is not good, but Putin doesn't care, and it looks like Gerasimov as well. They send the orders to attack like that, and they don't care about the losses. I don't know why, but they do it continuously. Well, maybe Gerasimov is just tired of this war, and his strategy is to ruin the Russian army in those attacks and then say to Putin, okay, we cannot fight any longer. I want to go home. Let's make peace, whatsoever. I don't see like real logical explanation why Russian military command is doing that. But for our drone operators, of course, those attacks are the easy prey. Very, very easy, very good targets to hit by absolutely everything. Yeah, Russians, continue. Well, we have more news from Pokrovsk-Dobropilya. After all, Russians sent some of the infantry attack towards Rodinsk, and now they're trying to return those territories at least close to this settlement. Russians commenced the attack using this road, and the fights are ongoing very close to Rodinsk itself. Infantry fights, there were no convoys. We'll see how this unfolds, and here Ukraine might use some of the forces also from Rodinsk to repel this Russian strike. Hopefully our guys are successful here. Well, in Pokrovsk itself, Deep State colored this in a gray area, and indeed it's like that, so we have this update unfortunately, but this update was released several days ago. We may see it from the Myko 73 map, so it was like that already for a few days, but here Ukraine counterattacked the Russian positions, returning control over this industrial district. And yeah, according to the Myko 73, the fight is now ongoing very close to Rodinsk, so maybe Russians took this road for attack near Chervony Liman. Of course, for now, Pokrovsk-Dobropilya is the most intense direction on the front line, with active battles using tanks, infantry vehicles, airplanes, bombs, whatsoever, even HIMARS Ukraine is using here. Also, NOIL Reports gives us this update confirming the very terrible situation for the Russian army. Where the situation for Ukraine is not that good is in Dnipropetrovsk region, so here's the crossroad of Donetsk, Dnipropetrovsk, Zaporizhia. And we see how Russians propel with this attack towards Previlya, Vishneva. They're actually very close to the road which connects Pokrovsk with all of those settlements. I would say it could be the main defense line of Ukraine. Well, at least it is logical to build it here. You have the war obstacle, you have all of those settlements in one line. But Russians here, they put their flag even across the Yanchur River. I think it belongs to the village of Yehorivka, and Russian positions were spotted even here. Ukraine is using aviation strikes to stop the Russian offensive, but not only aviation, as you understand, drones and everything is being used. But Ukrainian defense so far, I don't see that it's strong in this region, and Pokrovsk is very, very close already. Well, if we go to the Deep State military map, they show us it as the big gray zone, but every day there are some of the updates. So the day before yesterday, today you see this one, yeah? Well, here the strategy of the Russian army is different. They advance mostly with infantry forces. However, they tried convoy attacks well before, maybe it was 2 weeks ago, but now they changed their tactics. Also in Zaporizhia direction, you might see that Russians took some of the ground under control. They're very close to Stepnohirsk, but still not in the settlement. This attack is ongoing for, I guess, 4 months already, maybe even more. Here Russians propelled maybe by 6 or 7 kilometers from their previous positions, occupying Kamensk and Plavny. This is the northern part of the Kharkiv region. Here Russians gained some of the more ground in Vovchansk direction and in Vovchansk itself. Here Russians use also infantry attacks backed up by aviation strikes. It's been very calm here for the last 2 years, but Russians now try to intensify. Russian command wants Ukraine to send extra reinforcements to Vovchansk to disperse the forces and to attack in different direction. It is not the main Russian attack. It is just to deflect the attention of Ukrainian army. Oh, the Russian soldier and the Ukrainian drone bot. So this is the Russian soldier. You may see it on his face. And here he drops the grenade towards the Ukrainian ground bot, so basically a small vehicle which is used to even attack Russian positions, and usually it carries lots of the TM62 mines, anti-tank mines, to ambush Russian positions. It's like a kamikaze drone but on the ground, so this Russian drop something, a grenade, and start to just walk away. Walk away, not run away, walk away. And you understand what happened there, yeah? Because of many of the TM62 mines, this entire area kaboomed. So that Russian soldier was offed as well. It seems like there was some sort of the Russian convoy. Yeah, definitely it was. And we see this Russian vehicle. So this soldier was clearing the way for the Russian convoy. Maybe it happened far behind the front lines. Well, I would say he was successful in clearing the way, but with the downsides for him, yeah. Okay, I understand that it is the Russian tank, but isn't it too much? Well, not even in a Mad Max it is possible. And despite having the electronic Wi-Fi on top, they still need to install everything of that because there are fiber optic drones flying all around. And of course, in that case, you need a physical protection. So Putin is again wearing a military uniform. It's the response for Donald Trump and for all of those people who say that he might stop because of the Western sanctions or new American sanctions that were applied on Russia. Here he says about the Russian nuclear cruise missile Burevestnik that doesn't have any sort of the analogs made in the West. So mighty Russia with its nuclear superpower. I'll try to find some of the English subtitles, what he said out there. Right here we have the subtitles. We have confirmed the reliability of Russia's nuclear weapons systems. Its strategic forces capable of fully ensuring national security of Russian Federation and the Soviet state. Well, it's not the Soviet state, it's the United State, as Russia calls it, the unity between Belarus and Russia. But in a way, yeah, you may call it even a Soviet state because Russia wants to restore the Soviet Empire. And we are talking about testing the cruise missile with unlimited range. Wow. So it's a unique product and no one is capable to produce it, something like that. So Putin claims that Russia has already tested Burevestnik missile. It's the cruise missile with a nuclear engines. The small nuclear reactor is used to propel the missile, and they claim that missile flew by 14,000 kilometers and successfully demonstrated its ability to bypass missile defense systems. Believe that? Well, honestly, I don't believe that. Without the real evidence shown, I think it's the bluffing or bullshit. Just look at the SpaceX launchers and how many cameras they use out there to show to everyone. So Russians, please do it and we're gonna believe you. And for now, it's nothing but words of this crazy Russian dictator, who wants again to rise the stakes and threaten West. By the time the Russian economy representative is in United States of America and he tells how good cooperation with Russia potentially could be. But definitely it shows that Putin is not willing to stop if he speaks with this war rhetorics. Well, Dmitriev went on Fox News and CNN. I wonder why he received those platforms to speak, because it's after all the Russian propaganda which he continued to spread. He was asked about the civilian infrastructure, which has been bombed in Ukraine, including kindergartens, and he answered, of course, Russia is not aiming towards civilian infrastructure, but there are civilian casualties in every war. So it's like a hint that Russia will continue to strike civilians, unfortunately. And I haven't heard anything from Dmitriev about some sort of the Russian concessions, nothing. Demands are basically the same. Also, Putin met with Gerasimov and other generals of his military command. Well, they discussed mainly nuclear exercise that happened recently, but of course the war in Ukraine as well. Gerasimov, where's your friend Shoigu? And what is very interesting that during this meeting, Gerasimov reported officially on camera to Putin that Ukrainian group, many of the brigades, he said 8 brigades, are being encircled in Pokrovsk and Mirnograd, are being encircled once again. Then I heard it, I was like, what is he saying? What the bullshit he's talking to? Like, they live in their own personal bubble. I wonder if Gerasimov really knows the real situation on the front lines. Well, if he knows, he just mispresents the information. Maybe it's all done for media, but Russian Z channels, they are crazy about it. Even according to the most conservative Russian maps, Pokrovsk, Mirnograd are not being encircled. Here are the examples. Yeah, then Russians claim that they took Pokrovsk entirely, but we know that Ukraine liberated one of the districts there and started the counterattack in Rodinsk. So it's not what they show us here. The gray zone is wide. It's like something like this now. But Gerasimov already said that everything is trapped, Russian forces encircled everything, and 8 Ukrainian brigades have nowhere to go. They will be just demolished if they are not willing to surrender. And hearing that bullshit at this high level, it's definitely outstanding. Alright, some of the update about the Swedish Gripen fighter jets that Ukraine is going to obtain. Well, Zelensky says that they'll start to arrive to Ukraine the next year, but I don't think that it is really possible. If we speak about the new modification of those airplanes, well, potentially Sweden may send some of the older modifications to Ukraine. I do not exclude even this variant, but the Echo variant production has just been started, so it's not the fast thing. But overall, I like this deal a lot because Ukraine for the first time will obtain new fighter jets, like brand new, with a new modification. Outstanding, great. Meanwhile, yesterday there was the big attack on Kiev. Russians used some of the Shahed drones and also cruise missiles. They hit the local thermal power plant. Ukraine used helicopters to eliminate the fire, and there are lots of the blackouts in many districts of Kiev. Also, Russia is using new types of the gliding bombs with a jet engine. I already mentioned that on my channel, but they hit lots of the infrastructure with those as well, mostly in Kharkiv and Dnipropetrovsk regions. Yesterday, Russia targeted some of the windmills of Ukraine. This is the image from the Russian drone. They published it already. Ukraine already lost 3 of the windmill turbines. Here Russia shows that they fight against the Ukrainian energy infrastructure. Their goal is to make living on territory of Ukraine not possible. Alright, India started buying oil from Iraq and Qatar following United States sanctions against Lukoil and Rosneft, Bloomberg reports. Well, so far India is not cancelling the Russian oil purchases completely, but definitely there are some of the moves from Indian authorities to decentralize oil markets and not to be that tied into Russia because it might carry some of the risks for their economy. Especially for the energy sector, they'll try to avoid secondary sanctions. But despite the Western sanctions, in general, Russia's export rose by 18% in 2024, reaching 330 billion United States dollars. China remains Russia's top trading partner, importing 130 billion of goods, mainly oil, gas, and coal. You can see the statistics. So even, for example, India lowers the export from Russia, it doesn't mean the collapse of the Russian economy, and China will continue to purchase Russian oil. Even Donald Trump himself said about it that China will continue to consume it. Donnie wants just to speak with Xi Jinping to lower the amount of the oil which China continued to buy. And once again, I'm speaking about this Belgian Prime Minister Freak Prick, who decided to not to confiscate Russian assets, but to keep them. And according to the publications in media, it seems like we found out the main reason why he's against the confiscations, because he plans to earn money just from the interests on those Russian money, because they are frozen, but they are out there and there is some interest going because they're in the banks. Yeah, so 1 billion euros at least per year Belgium is going to earn on those frozen Russian assets. Business as usual. So why would those corrupt guys be interested in confiscation if they earn on that? So by the time Ukraine needs the support, and it is the potential way out for Ukraine to obtain funds for military, those funds could be invested in European Union countries themselves to produce military weapons for Ukraine, yeah? But no, let's keep them closed in our banks and let's earn on that stuff because we are freaking bureaucrats, right? Guys, with those kind of the moves, I'm still surprised that Putin hasn't started one more special military operation somewhere in Europe, because it looks like they simply do not care. There is no unity, and there is very weak reaction on all of those Russian provocations in Baltics, in Poland. Like, I don't see the positive signs in Europe. Yeah, they now try to reform their military, but it's not as it should be. Oh, the Russian air defense has been spotted even on satellite images. So those are the constructions. For example, this looks like Buk air defense, and Russia put lots of them around Moscow. They were geolocated by Ocean Analytics already, and probably Russia uses more air defense systems around Moscow than on the front lines. Well, at least it looks like that. All of the yellow are S-300 systems, red S-400, and the green short-range Panzer 1S, something like that. So you see, the Moscow city is the most protected part of Russia. That's why for Ukrainian drones it's very hard to penetrate and go inside Moscow. It was possible a couple of years ago, but now Russia deployed everything out there. You know why? Because of Putin, and Putin wants to keep Moscow mainly protected. My friends, thank you so much for making my job possible, especially those people who support me on Patreon or membership of this channel. Guys, without you, this content wouldn't be possible. So thank you so much. If you don't have the opportunity to support me financially, just press your like to this video and subscribe for the channel. That also helps YouTube algorithms to take this video and spread around YouTube. Also, I want to change my schedule to 1 video per day. Yesterday, I actually filmed a video, but something was wrong with my file. I couldn't upload it, so sorry for delay, but every day I promise to upload at least 1 video. Well, 2 maybe sometimes if we'll have really extraordinary news. But I think 1 per day is more or less okay for everyone. And my friends, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.